back with another episode of the Talking with Branders podcast, brought to you by Branders Magazine. I am your host, Steven Bacons, and today in the studio, we have the one and only Bill Kenney. He's CEO and founder of Focus Lab, a branding agency located in the home state of New Jersey. 18 unicorns, 16 clients acquired, $5.1 billion in raised capital for his clients. Bill, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For anyone who does not know who you are, excuse my English, give the audience a 60-second elevator pitch. Who you are, what you do, where you come from.
Yeah, all right. So 60 seconds, start clock.
Go.
I am a young, creative, artistic kid that grew up on an island, went to art school, realized I didn't want to paint, became a designer, stumbled into becoming freelancer, realized I couldn't make websites, meet developer, start a business together, design and development as the core function of the business. Here we are 13 years later with Focus Lab, and now the second agency, actually, which we'll probably talk about a little bit, Odie. Both of them primarily serving B2B technology companies with branding. Team of 30.
Team of 30?
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite the accomplishment. That's not a small startup, Starbucks-style agency. That's legit.
Feels legit.
It's even more legit because you have a new book out,
Yes.
Bill,
Yeah.
that I was gracious enough to get sent with a nice handwritten note, and I totally appreciate it, called Conquer Your Rebrand. So what we're going to talk about today, Branders, is going to focus on rebranding. I love repositioning companies in my work, and there are so many agencies out there that are amazing at this, that they're able to kind of see the forest through the trees on where the brand should go. In my experience, Bill, the word rebrand conjures up a lot of emotion with founders and with the C-level, and so I've started using the term refresh.
Interesting.
What's your take on rebrand versus refresh? Because a lot of who I speak with, like, rebrand is almost negative. It's like, I have to redo what I've already done that got us here. So what's your take?
It's scary.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the word is scary. Yeah. So we say both words to answer your question. When a client is coming in, we are often asking them, even in the sales process, is this more of a refresh to you? Or is it actual rebranding? Because there are definitely clients that come to us where rebrand is exactly what they need and want. Mm-hmm. They're not wanting to stay close to home. They might even have huge trademark issues where they're like, we can't stay close to home. It is rebrand time. We still ultimately do more rebranding than refreshing. But what we find is, yes, we have to say things like, it doesn't mean throwing away all the equity that you've grown. Right? A rebrand doesn't just mean everything goes to zero and we start everything new, but you can come out with the newest version of your brand, and we would still call that a rebrand. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes people would prefer the word refresh, but we don't really get caught up in those semantics, right? Yeah. Okay, if that's what you need to hear, but we're still doing the same type of work.
Yeah, fine. The process doesn't change.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, the outcomes might be different, and again, closer to home or further from home. But again, like, we're going to go through the process.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't really matter to us.
When you mentioned in the beginning 13 years with Focus Labs.
Yeah.
Did you initially start out working on rebrands? Like, was that like a core?
No. No, you're talking like, I mean, I'm sure all the people listening and watching can appreciate this. As a young designer just trying to get out in the field and start their hustle, if you will, you're not thinking like, we're going to be a brand shop. And there's no we. It was like me. It was before I met my business partner, really. Yeah. You need crappy business cards designed? I can make them less crappy. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Will you pay me $100 for that? Awesome. I'm fresh out of school. This feels like a lot of money per hour. It's over time that your business evolves and you realize who you should serve, who you want to serve, and what that actually looks like. So no, you're talking about 13 years to get here. We probably find the branding, positioning aspect of our business maybe at year 7 and 8, honestly. Not that far away. Yeah, because you're still like, we're a brand and web shop. You're using language that still makes you feel more full service offering.
Can I bunny ear full service?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so you get more and more mature. At least for us, you realize like we not only should we not be that, we don't want to be that.
Right.
So we've tunneled in now.
Yeah,
which is great.
I hear full service, and I'm saying to myself, great. what don't you do well?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
what do you suck at that you're still claiming you can do? You know, the riches are in the niches, and
that's where we want to be.
Yeah.
Even our second agency that we started is continuing to even niche down within the space to say, okay, and yes, it is still B2B branding that we're doing, but the offering will be slightly different and it will serve an even more specific target, which at that company's size, it is seed stage or even pre-seed.
okay,
Right? People that are saying...
this is a second agency.
Correct.
What's it called?
ODI.
ODI.
Correct.
Where's that name come from?
Great question. We did our own naming exercise and we threw a lot of things at the wall. And one of my business partners was like, I really like this name word that I made up, and it's ODI, and here's why.
Ownable.
It just stuck.
Yeah.
And we're really good friends and close partners with Lexicon, which is a
Sure.
big naming agency. And David is now a close friend of mine, the founder of that company. And we had him helping us with the process of naming it. And I'm fine saying it. David hated the name ODI.
Okay.
He's like, I would not do that. And I was like, David, I think we're going to do that. I still love you. I still value what you do. It seems to be working and sticking for us.
I mean, it checks a lot of the boxes. It's short, it's memorable, rolls off the tongue, it's
Right.
fun to say.
Yeah.
I'm sure you were able to get, the URLs and all that.
Yeah, give or take.
Give or take.
Yeah.
A lot of squatters these days owning URLs.
Yeah. Yes.
From a brand architecture perspective, why start another agency?
Yeah, great question. So we just kind of touched on it. To get to the punchline, we don't want to build the full service agency this way.
Okay.
We want to build an ecosystem of offerings that are children, basically, of a parent, of a global, that is all niched offerings and can speak in a certain way, project itself from a brand perspective in a certain way, relate to its clients where they are in a certain way, instead of saying, well, we're Focus Lab, we're this giant full service agency, which we're not. Oh, but we can also serve this person. That's confusing, right? The language at that brand level becomes really confusing for the customer.
Yeah.
So we can we're building planets around the sun is essentially how we're thinking about it.
I see. And the sun being Focus Lab.
No, interesting. No, the sun being a parent brand that's not even public yet, which is essentially like the soul of all the businesses, the mission and the values, the operational stuff of how we all function, and then the planets are the agencies, right? That can now branch out and do other types of offerings.
I feel like you need to make a diorama with all of
Yes,
that.
maybe I need a diorama in my house. Yes.
Well, I mean, that's super exciting. So for OD, I mean, you're focusing on, you said pre-seed up to probably like Series
Almost like
A?
up to an A, yes, in that window.
So just helping these scrappy startups that are just trying to look for product market fit and establish their MVP, probably, have a brand that represents their current thinking.
Exactly right. And for them, it is, you could even call it visual identity, right? I know the word brand is big and we all understand that. And it is still a brand agency, but we are ultimately delivering visual identity at that point because they're not ready for robust messaging frameworks and all this stuff. They're basically saying and needing, we don't look like we belong in the space. It still looks like me, the founder, or my brother's uncle made our website and our visuals.
Right.
We can't get to the next level of clientele. So Odie will really help them get to that.
Okay.
And then once they graduate to that, the thinking is eventually they would need then Focus Lab Series A to Series D.
Sure.
As they mature through their customer cycle.
And so for Focus Lab, you're focusing obviously on brand building, brand strategy, messaging, look and feel.
Yeah.
Are you doing advertising? Are you doing creative? Are you?
No, we really try to stay, and this is that's an interesting question because what happens when we find that we should offer that? Now we would break that out as a planet, right?
Yeah.
Currently we do not.
Yeah. Okay. Very rarely do I come across at least branding agencies that are just so singularly focused. How when going on your journey to get to this, how difficult was it to because the thinking is, right, we want to be a value base, we want to offer value, but now I'm saying no a lot.
Sure.
So how difficult is that?
It's difficult in the early years because you need revenue.
Yeah.
Like you literally need money as you get the business more mature and it can increase its pricing, and prove its value, even with its singular offering, you no longer have to play on the fringes. And we don't use that word in the company, but like on the fringes of like, well, isn't that so close to what you do that you should offer it? Sure, but like, then that would require us also having to be really good at that. And we would argue that that is still a different skill set, even though it is really close to the bubble of ours.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. So, Bill, let's talk some failures, like rebranding failures. Give me a couple failures, whether that you could just kind of talk about, and then I want to dissect them and kind of pinpoint some steps that companies can take to avoid those failures.
Okay, so the failures often arise, 13 years is not forever, but it is long enough to see kind of the trends of where these pitfalls happen. And I'll use the client side pitfalls. It doesn't mean it's always the client fault, but I think that'll be the better takeaways here probably. So the bigger pitfalls often show up when that company is not actually ready to go through that process. They think they are, but they're thinking in their head, oh, we're just trying to get to the website, right? And we're like, whoa, we'll get it back all the way up. We're going to talk about the values, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the founder's too busy to actually join this meeting. They can't be a part of that. So we have to usher this through now, and let's just get to the visuals. Like when it becomes that type of roller coaster, man, it's really hard to make progress.
Yeah.
You're constantly spinning your wheels, and you can't, in our process, it's a very domino. I hate to use the word waterfall. That's more of like a development term, but it is very domino driven, which is let's get the mission and the values and all these things right, and the purpose, because that's going to inform the strategy and how we talk. And when that gets clunky at the front end, again, if the team and the ownership founders are not aligned on what they're trying to get and why and the time that it takes, that's probably the better point, actually. I think a lot of people don't realize how much time needs to be attributed from the client side to a project like this.
It's a big initiative.
It's a big initiative, right? And it needs to be thought of as that, and the engagement needs to be felt in that way on the client side. Sometimes, not because they're bad or stupid, they feel like I've hired you and I've paid you a lot of money. Go produce the thing and help me. And it's like, okay, but we're actually building this together.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit, I didn't realize I was going to have to put that much effort into it. If you can pass that quick, that hurdle, great. Sometimes you actually can't pass it.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It feels like we're doing all the work. It's
Yeah.
like, well, that's not how I would look at it, but I can see how we're looking at this differently. Logo is an obvious one. Man, projects get hung up on logos. Sometimes they live and die on logos.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
And it's a dilemma we've tried to.
And is it one of those things? Is it one of those things where the leadership team, they just don't understand what you're trying to, what you're trying to present to them, or they have their own ideas? What is it about the logo?
It is still nuanced. Like all of these pitfalls have their multiple arms coming off of them. Sometimes it is purely the founder says, I don't like it, but I don't know why. Right. So obviously that's really hard to work with. So you have to try to.
I love that answer.
You have to pull that out, right? Like, okay, you have a vision in your head. Let's see if somehow we can pull it out. Or so that becomes the very subjective bucket.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about things very subjectively. That's not going to be all that helpful. Or it looks like this. Well, it looks like that. Well, it's like, okay, well, if we're trying to check the logo box of simple, recognizable, all these things, it's going to look like something else. Whether that be another logo, that's a whole nother issue, or a thing in the world that exists, right? That looks like a soccer ball. Yeah, but it's not a soccer ball.
Right.
And when it's not on a white page and it has context around it and story and messaging and all this, no one's going to think it's a soccer ball.
Yeah.
Getting people to take that leap is pretty hard. It is really hard. And we definitely profess to our team, even in the hiring process, being really good at your craft is not being really good at words or pixels here. It has to be that, can you take people across the bridge when they're really struggling to understand pixels?
Yeah. It's such a great analogy. I did improv comedy for a lot of years.
Wow.
And I mean, yeah, it was
Scary. You want to talk about scary?
scary fun.
I
I've
would
never
never
laughed
do
as
that.
much as I had. But one of the exercises that we would play, and producer John, you're going to know where I'm going with this, is the A to C game, right? So A to B is natural. When I say water bottle, what's the first thing you think of? Water. But what does water make you think of? Canoe, right? And so you would say, I would say water bottle, you would say canoe, right? So you're playing this A to C game where you're thinking and you're jumping over the bridge.
You're actually trying to jump.
Trying to, and it just instills such a unique layer of thinking on your feet, and it's a good exercise to play with executive teams.
I love
to get them
that.
to break them out of their own box, get them
Yes.
to forget about their own bullshit for a little bit and
Yes.
play with us, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do
Yes.
here. Is we're playing in a sandbox,
Yes.
and we've got to make something. And if you're going to continuously stomp on everything that we're trying to make, then the sand is always just going to be sand. It's not
Right.
going to be anything great.
Yes.
So the A to C game is a brilliant thing.
I love that. What we do find, again, these struggles are, well, how is this color palette going to, and then sometimes they're actually jumping way far.
Right.
Well, that's not going to work for a CTA. But we don't want to make decisions on the core color palette of your entire brand on a CTA on your website, or one feature of a product in the product itself. The game can become quite literal and detail-oriented fast when we're still supposed to be in the sandbox.
Yeah.
Dreaming and playing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let's talk more about stakeholders. In my experience, project success dies and thrives with the stakeholders.
Yeah.
How are you eliciting feedback properly? And, how can, if I'm a branding agency listening to this show, how can I, instill better feedback loops or mechanisms to ensure the project's always moving forward as it should?
Feedback is challenging, yes. So one thing I talk about in the book, not to plug the book too much here, but in the book, we have a chapter devoted to onboarding clients. And in there is talking about the frameworks that we use to help clients understand what good feedback is and what bad feedback is. But even before that, we work really hard to help the client-side team understand that there needs to be a clear decision maker, a decider. So there's this framework you might be familiar with, DACI, D-A-C-I. And you're basically trying to label those roles. D is that decision maker. So sometimes the decision maker is the founder. Sometimes the decision maker is all the way down to like a lead designer on the team if it's a really small team. Many times it's the CMO. If they don't know that coming in, they're going to fumble through that unknown for the first 4 to 5 weeks. If they know that coming in and we've asked them for it and they've said it, then we say, okay, like we need a decision on this. You're the decision maker. So like, where are we?
Yeah.
What's going on? Who's driving is actually the term of the D in DACI. Is
driver.
the driver.
Yeah.
Who's actually driving this thing? So again, trying to help the client and teach them upfront of the things they shouldn't expect yet, but they need to know to help them on a smoother process here.
Yeah.
Don't go out and crowdsource it to your entire team on week one.
Please
We
don't
don't
do
need
that.
everybody's opinions yet. And that's easy to say, but let me tell you why that is problematic.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to insulate this until it's ready to be shown because people won't understand it. Again, if you just go out and hold up a logo, someone's going to say it's a soccer ball. Someone's going to say it's a bowl of fruit, right? Like you got to present it with the story because that's what the customers are going to get to. So really helping them understand, give us clear, actionable feedback, non-subjective. Now, these are impossible tasks, quite honestly, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be very objective. It needs to be clear and actionable, and it needs to be a unified voice. We harp on that a lot.
Yeah.
Even if you've got 4 people on your project team that are the core team and they all have feedback, we don't need opposing opinions. You got to fight that out internally.
Right.
And bring us the final decision.
One of the things, in my career where I've consulted with tons of agencies, one of the things that I helped bring to an agency was like rules of engagement, like co-authored by the client team and the agency team.
Okay.
Like this is our Bill of Rights. This is our doctrine.
That we've all agreed to?
We've all agreed to, and you're going to sign it, and I'm going to sign it. And should anyone stray, us or you, we're going to hold this up and say, well, no, we agreed that we were only going to get one email of consolidated feedback, not 8.
Sure.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I worked on this project, and I wish I could talk more about it, but I'm kind of in the middle of it, where we went through, and it was me and 2 other partners that I have, and real scrappy small team. We went in, we did like a kind of a sprint methodology to do a refresh for a sporting commission. And we developed a great brand, and we got everyone on the executive team, they're buying, they were loving it. And then at the last minute, they were like, oh, we got to take it to our board of directors.
Yeah, and your gut drops.
6 months later, we have made no progress because they have 15 people on the board of directors, and you got everyone from the CEO of a sports team to an attorney who just has alternating views. No one is aligned, and it is what not to do when going through this process, and it's such a shame.
And the antidote to that we've seen is if there is still a really single, strong voice, it can push through that challenge. Mm-hmm. Let's assume the CEO or the founder of that business can speak in a way that they can galvanize and influence the board. Not all relationships are that way, board to the founder, right? Some is very much like, oh shit, they really hold all the alpha keys, and I really have to be fairly submissive to what they're saying. Some groups, you have a person that has such a personality, even below the founder level, that we see them push that thing so well internally that everyone does start to buy into it, even if the roles positionally are much different. The board, right?
Right.
The board is a tricky one. Here's another example that we're going through actually right now. Fantastic company, all things considered. They're in the city, big company, public.
New York City.
New York City, yep. Yeah. Public-facing company, and tons of M&A, tons of mergers and acquisitions and stuff. So they have an innate brand problem because of that. You've got all these pods of companies that have been acquired that have different values and blah, blah, blah. CEO and founder is a new position there, meaning it's a new person holding that seat and really influential in the company, but was not a part of the project week to week. By the time he saw it for the first time, he said, I don't really get it, I don't like it. But through just a 1-hour meeting explaining it, I'll bring it up to speed, a big transition happens. And now all of a sudden, he's really loving everything. Yeah. And I know that he, and the way that he speaks and galvanizes people, if he's on board, everybody watch out. He will galvanize the whole entire company, top to bottom, above him and below him.
Yeah.
So it's really, so I guess what's the point there? Try to figure out who the hell that person is early in a project at any position, and make sure they're in the damn project.
Yeah.
Week to week. For us, that's week to week.
So, I mean, I would say that's success right there.
Correct. Yeah.
What are some other metrics of like a rebranding success that you might push out there?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really harp on direct failures within our company, and I'm happy to go back to that, but they do hinge around those points I've made. Big success in a company, God, and there are many more of those, right? You're talking about like a 10% to a 90% of the projects that really struggle because of any particular reason, and then 90%. Within the 90%, you have people that are saying, oh my God, you know what you're doing way more than I do. I innately and fully trust you.
Trust.
If that is true, if trust is true from the beginning, you can leap those hurdles.
Yeah.
Like in a single bounce.
Yeah.
When trust is not there, it's a lot of fear and a lot of questioning, which really that's again stomping on all the sand, and we're just back to kind of like flat sand. So success is born out of that. But I really want to be clear here because I don't want to harp on just the client side that has to do all the work. It is our job as a company to put forth the things that will allow people to trust us.
Like what?
Onboarding them well, giving them the education and the tools that they need to succeed in the project, helping them understand quite early in the project if they're doing things that are working against them. Now, it is up to them to believe those, I suppose, right? Hey, that thing you're doing is not helping. You should change. Oh my God, thank you. Thank God we hired you. Maybe another agency might have just been like, not said that to us, right? Trying to enjoy the project. We always say like rebrands are really hard. Like at least hire a group that you feel like you can have fun with.
Yeah.
Even when shit is stressful, let's be clear. Like, it's going to be stressful.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Let's try to laugh a little bit. Let's try to be humans. Let's start the meeting off in the first 5 minutes and just be like, how you doing? How's your week? What crazy shit did your kid get into? Like that kind, like, let's try to humanize this thing that is this weird world of art and science mashed into one. And
Totally. Especially when you're playing in the B2B space, which comes off as robotic at times,
Correct.
right? Like how do you humanize, the B2B space and it's doable and you're doing it and there's other great agencies doing it and there's brands that are in the B2B space that are completely human and having fun.
Yes.
What was it? Like even the book, right? Build a B2B brand that customers love and competitors envy. Why focus only on B2B?
You got to carve out your space.
What was it about B2B that just you gravitated towards?
Well, I think it's twofold. That felt more of a blue ocean, if you will, for people familiar with that term and book. And it was naturally becoming an ocean that we were getting pulled into anyways. I think due to the fact of some of the platforms that we landed on, like Dribble, these kind of like creative platforms where we share our work, we landed the type of work where those types of clients were going there to find talent, if you will. And one of those was Marketo.
Okay.
Sarah, who was the CMO of Marketo, a new CMO of Marketo, went to Dribble, found us, loved our work, hired us. And as soon as we had Marketo as kind of like a token big B2B tech company rebrand, even though we were already in the space, that like solidified us for the other B2B tech companies to go like, oh, shit. Even though they are small and boutique-y, especially more at that point, we might have only been 15, 18 at that point. Now we were getting more of that reach. And at the same time, we're realizing we don't want to compete at B2C level.
Yeah.
I don't want to compete against Red Antler every day, quite honestly, or other fantastic, talented companies like that. What is our ocean?
Yeah.
And it was already becoming B2B. So we just dove into it.
That's great.
And we're just continuing to try to grab more of that.
Yeah.
It's not to say we're the only one or the best there.
Right.
But we're trying to be very clear in our messaging of what our mission is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what prompted you to want to do something crazy and write a book? And how does your wife take that?
Yeah. Funny, I thank her very appropriately and very specifically in the back of the book for giving me the space and time to do that. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I'm already heavily distracted. I love work. Even in the challenging times, I still enjoy work. I'm a bit of a workaholic because I like it.
Yeah.
And then, yes, writing a book on top of that, where's that time going to go? It went to the weekends and it went to the nights.
Yeah.
Which,
discipline
thank
there.
God for her.
Yeah.
For being the type of human that says, I know there's a thing that you got to get out of your system and you want to do it. I support you.
Yeah.
Instead of when's this thing going to be over with? Like, I married you to be with you, not with you, your business and your book and all these other things.
As a creative though, right? Like we're only as good as the support system around us. And that allows us the opportunity to be, creative. So like I commend you on this accomplishment. Like it's such an accomplishment and it's a great book and I've skimmed through it. I'm gonna be honest, Bill.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I got the book. I was so excited. I've skimmed through some pages, but I've been moving and
of course
my life is
you don't have to apologize.
No, but I feel like I need to because you're here with us. But that all being said, I appreciate seeing literature like this come out because it's only going to set the expectations it's going to set the expectation of brands that are looking to do something and looking to take their business to the next level. This becomes a guidepost. This becomes a lighthouse within the branding industry and within our craft. And our craft is being redefined daily.
Yeah, for sure.
Branding
the world
is hot
evolving
now.
Fast. Yes. Right. And you're right. I wrote the book for that purpose. Yes, is it self-serving? Of course. Some of the reviews have been, he wrote this book because he wants to get business. Yeah, no shit.
Right.
But I wrote it in a very humble way that was like, I'm going to make sure I am not salesy at all in the book. And I'm going to write everything that we do within our entire company, start to finish, and I'm just going to put it out there. I didn't hold anything back, right? So that benefits and adds value, yes, to the industry as a whole. I even said that in the beginning of the book. I dedicate the book to the industry. Not that I think this book is going to dynamically change the industry, but if it makes the industry or any particular player in the industry, customer or agency, minutely better, then I've accomplished the goal of the book, right? So it's just to speak freely about why brand matters, all the things that we all care about,
right?
All the brand people.
All the brand people, right?
Care about
the marketers that are listening. They're like, I don't understand branding. Oh, keep listening. What's your take on? There's a lot of emphasis recently on the personal brand, and your personal brand on LinkedIn is phenomenal. You push out great content. It's how you and I connected.
Correct. Yeah.
Personal branding is not anything new. I mean, Vaynerchuk's been yelling about it from the top of the Empire State Building since 2008 or whatever it is. But in regards to B2B brands, how important is personal branding for the employees of these B2B brands?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I would just echo what you said, which is like none of this shit is new. Branding isn't new. Personal branding isn't new. Even B2B is like, yeah, it's like it's evolving because it finally should. Things don't have to be so businessy anymore. Right. The world is very different now. How does personal branding play a part in B2B branding specifically? I think it all depends. If you're a younger startup, your team is small, and you're a really well-spoken, with a high gravitational pull founder, personal brand goes tremendously far. If you're a giant company and you have the type of founder that doesn't really want to be front-facing, I don't know that person needs to build a personal brand for that company to be successful. I think it's a tool in a tool belt is probably the way I would say it. Yeah. And for the people that can nail it, hell yeah, they've got another tool and they've got an edge up on the companies that don't.
Well, your employees, do you encourage them to leverage their own personal brand and influence?
Yeah, I don't know that I say it in a way that if they listen to this, they'd be like, yes, he does tell us to really influence and lean into personal brand here to build additional reach value personally for them and for the business. I don't stop them from doing that either. Yeah. I think what I've found as what I would still call a relatively small team, 30 sounds big relative to where we started when I was like, when we had 4 people, I was like, holy shit, this is a lot. 30 feels significantly larger than that. But what I've realized is there are different strengths of social activity and personal branding that some people just, they don't even really want to do that. So I think I hedge on the side of like, if you organically follow that path, I think Natalie, who's currently on our team as creative director, her personal brand is strong and her social voice is really strong on multiple subjects, not just branding. I love that amplification for her and for our team and all that. Yeah. But I would never make that okay, everybody, I want you all to be like Natalie. That would be an impossible task for some people on the team. They're like, wow, that's tough. So I guess my answer is I let it happen organically.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's smart. I don't think it's fair to impose, you have to have a personal brand, but it's also not fair to silence those who do have it.
Correct.
Like you have to find that balance and and to some regard put up the guardrails that, hey, if you are putting yourself out there, make sure you represent the company in the best light, etc. Like put up like those social parameters.
Yeah, but you're right. It's not everyone has to just tuck underneath the business and is not allowed to have a voice on different subjects inside or outside the company.
Which unfortunately exists. You know, there are brands that do put the kibosh on it.
That's right.
And there are brands that, you know, really want you to lean in. Like I think heavy brands that rely on like an outbound sales team, they're really pushing their sales organization or their staff to have a personal brand because statistics show that, you know, personal brands can sell the product of an organization, you know, whatever the stat is.
People they relate to the human being, not the business.
Of course.
Right? Which is at the core of
that's at the core.
Right. Like,
exactly.
What's the thing that people can relate to? It's not a feature.
Right.
It has to be about the mission and the vision, the purpose of the company, and all that bakes into the brand.
That's why you could say B2B, B2C. It doesn't really fucking matter.
It doesn't matter.
Human. It's human to human.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Yes, there are, again, nuances to use that word for the 98th time.
I think 99.
In the 1 hour. But it doesn't really matter. We use the word because it positions us very clearly so people know, oh, that's what you work in the best and basically only work in now. there has to be an advantage there for me knowing that I'm B2B. Let me go talk to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we couldn't perform well for a B2C company. Because you're right, it's all human beings, right? We're telling narratives and creating things that are compelling for humans.
Right. If I were to ask you, and I'm going to ask you, I don't know why I preemptively said that, the five ways that you know it's time to go through a rebranding. What are those 5 ways?
Oh, yeah. All right. So they're in the book, and I should know them offhand. There are 5 in the book. You've done a really mean thing to me, Steven. You understand this, right?
This is compelling journalism, I believe.
Right. It's the same as saying, what are your 6 core values? Can you read them off in line? And you're like, shit, I should know those right off the top. Okay. So in the book, we talk about, let me hit the easy ones first. You have changed positions in the market completely. You used to be this type of company with this type of offering, and now your customers are drastically different, and you've built a whole new tool, and now you're in a new vertical. You have to go through a rebrand. It's not an option. You've grown so fast from, like, say, that seed stage to a Series A, Series B. You've gone from 20 employees to 350. And quite honestly, your shit's all over the place. Visually, verbally, everything. Everyone doesn't really know why they're getting out of bed and what they're working towards. You 100% need to go through a rebrand. You run into trademark issues, right? So this is recent. In the past couple of years, we've had clients that even at like a Series B level have gotten letters in the mail. Hey, that logo very specifically, you cannot have that anymore.
Really?
Now that you're big enough on the big stage,
now we have
seen it. And that's an issue. You have to change that. Now that's a logo issue, but that does then...
That prompts a lot
It prompts the conversation, right? What else needs to be addressed in here? Okay, so that's 3. Do you know the other 2?
Keep going.
Okay. Shit. Because we talk about the duct tape. Things are taped together. They're scrappy. You've grown so fast. You've changed your position. You have trademark issues. Well, I could say you don't have to change positions to realize that your brand is not resonating.
Right. It just might just be irrelevant to your audience, tone deaf.
Yeah, you could just be completely missing the mark for whatever reason. It looks really old because it has never been updated ever. It was never going to hit the mark in the first place, and it would need that attention. I think the 5th one would really be kind of like all of those things maybe mashing together, which is something is not working, and it could be parts of this one and parts of that one. You've grown fast and it's kind of okay, but you've added this new service and that's a little bit confusing. So maybe the M&A stuff is one I didn't really touch on. That could be part of that growth story. We see the M&A spawning branding work a lot, especially where we are now in that Series A to Series D. People are doing proper M&A there. You can't have 4 different companies coming together and it's still that brand trying to be that same brand.
Yeah, you have a power struggle. You're going to cannibalizing one thing for another.
A lot happens.
And then it's like it trickles down to bad culture. It trickles down to talent retention and acquisition.
Yeah, C-suite doesn't understand us. We're the new group that just got pulled in. The team was already 200 and we're the new 45 that just got bolted onto the side. But they don't understand our work culture and maybe our geographic culture from where they came from. So those are some of them. I don't know if I hit all 5. And you're going to make me better because I'm going to do my homework next time of my own book. Here's the thing. Like, you spend a year writing a book and you're like, I wrote the book. It came out in July. I certainly have not reread it myself. Well,
I mean, that poses an interesting, like, will you reread it? I
will.
You will.
I will, yeah.
Like, ask an actor, will you watch your own movie? And I think a lot of actors probably say no. It's in the can.
Okay.
Can't do anything about it. And I'm just taking an educated guess. But I think that by doing my hypothesis, if you were to reread it, you're writing a follow-up to it because something like this, I think it lends itself to like a version 2. Like, as we're speaking right now, Designing Brand Identity, but from Alina Wheeler. Do you know that book?
Yes.
She's coming out with the 6th edition.
I'm aware. We have work in it.
Do you?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You got to be more vocal about it. I didn't know that. I know that our friends from Motto, Sonny and Ashley, I don't know if you know Motto.
I do.
Yeah.
They do fantastic work.
Fantastic work.
I've not interacted with them yet.
Yeah, no, they're great.
I would love to. Their work is fantastic.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way, by having your work featured in her book.
Rob hit me up last minute. So Rob Meyerson was another, well, he is the other person working on that book. And I had recently reached out, sent him my book. Hey, I've been following you, but he's like, actually, I got a book coming out.
That's awesome.
I'd love to get some of your work in there.
Alina's not too far from around here. She's in Philadelphia.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. We're going to have her on the show coming up soon, hopefully after the book to talk about it. But super cool. So like they had the 6th edition coming out of that. Yeah. So it just kind of lends the opportunity to keep pushing it out and updating it.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I can tell. I already know there will be a version 2 because 13 years into business, we are going to evolve our processes.
Right.
There are going to be positions on certain things that we took in there that evolve mentally for us that we will want to capture. Yeah. And I can tell you, actually, looking back, I feel like I was so sensitive to not hyper plugging our company that I underplugged us. Very simple things like in the back of the book to say like, and if you'd like to reach out, like here's a simple email. Like I did none of that because I was so sensitive to that effect. I don't know that that's right from a business perspective. So either way, on version 2,
it's sincere,
new chapters.
There you go.
And probably a little bit of things in the back to say, oh, and hit us up.
But there's a sincerity to that, to not overplugging.
That was more important to me.
Yeah.
That was numero uno.
Yeah. And that's numero uno in branding. Just be sincere with whatever you do.
Well said.
Speaking of sincere, not only did you gift the book, but you brought this little John, as they say over here in Philadelphia.
Let me set the stage real quick.
Set the stage for what the hell this is.
So in our company, the thing that we care about most, and this is really an umbrella to everything we've just said, the thing we care about most is the customer experience. At the size and the talent that we are in our team and the companies that we compete with, the margin of getting better at design is very slim. So we have to figure out, okay, what else are we bringing to the table then?
Yeah.
And for us, we really harp on the customer experience. Some of that we touched on today, which is onboarding a client in a particular way and really shepherding them through the process, the highs and the lows. I had low calls today, right? We're really struggling with this. We thought it was going to be this. Okay, let's talk about that. Like if you can't show up in that way, literally you need to be able to show up in a rebranding process that way. So
it's an active sport.
It is a very active sport. So we needed an acronym in our company that everybody in the company understood at its simplest form and that clients also could understand. And that acronym is SAUCE. SAUCE. Seek to achieve unforgettable customer experiences. So when I say to a team member or they say to anybody else, a peer on the team, we need to add some more sauce to this. Or, man, that meeting you had was saucy. We all know what that means now. And that could mean saucy as in as simple as a client-side team member is struggling. Maybe they're sick and we send them some flowers. Hey, we're thinking about you. That's the human side of the relationship we want to bring. And also, hey, we got to push back on you and bring some realness to this meeting. We also consider that saucy. That's the customer experience that we're bringing to the table. So we went further now to get to the point. We went so far as to now create, and I'll let you open it, custom sauces that we send to the clients at the end of every project, and we thank them, and we basically say, we care about the customer relationship. We appreciate you trusting us in the rebrand. Oh, and by the way, here are our custom, small batch made locally. Not local.
New Jersey made?
No. Okay, so that's an interesting fact. We're not local anymore because we're fully remote. We started the company in Savannah, Georgia.
Okay, yeah.
So these are made in Savannah, Georgia. They're like 50 bottles each of these flavors, and there'll never be more than that. And then when we run out, that guy, Greg, is who makes these.
Yeah.
He will make us another batch of new sauces of like hand-picked vegetables and stuff. So coming all the way back around, we send this, like I said, to a client at the end of the project, and I wanted to bring that here for you to be saucy, and thank you for having me on the show. And I think it is different.
No, it's I love the acronym and the methodology behind or the reasoning, the why behind it is awesome, and I love hot sauces. So like. There was a LinkedIn message. I think that's how how I became familiar. But like, kudos for you guys for like your point of differentiation, right? Like this is awesome, and what a cool thing to receive. And I appreciate you giving us some. We, John and I have been talking about the studio needs some hot sauces, so you just solved one of our needs.
Oh yeah, producer John's gonna be enjoying that on some chicken later today.
Yeah, so read the ingredients. He gets pretty creative, which is why they look funky colors, right? Like that does not look like a traditional hot sauce.
No, it looks like,
and you'll see the heat profiles on the back and stuff. Go for it. He does a fantastic job. And then we create a custom label, of course, for ourselves.
Super cool. So Bill, for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, where do you live on the internet?
Primarily on LinkedIn these days.
Yep.
I've graduated from Dribble. That's a good thing. I'm no longer just a designer. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Bill Kenney. I think you might find another Bill Kenney, but I'm very active on the brand space, so you'll find me there.
Yeah.
I would also just mention that all my handles across all of social media are Bill S. Kenney. Mm-hmm. My second most active is Instagram. That's more of my like designer hub. I share a lot of the work in progress.
Cool.
Or LinkedIn, I'm really doing more of the teaching and preaching about brand.
Very cool. And for more on Focus Lab, is it focus.lab?
Okay, so people, remember you said people really sit and squat on URLs?
Yeah.
We have focuslab.agency. We missed out on focuslab.com in like the first month of our business because it was $1,500, and we're like, I don't think we should pay that. And then someone bought it, and they won't come off it. And we hit that person up every year, and we go like, you're doing nothing. Won't you just sell us the .com?
You should send them some hot sauce, but make it so hot that like that would be great.
So focuslab.agency.
Very cool.
Is the URL, and conqueryourrebrand.com.
Oh, very nice.
For the book.
Very good.
And then odiebrand.agency for Odie. But all of that, the ecosystem, we're very social.
Yeah.
You'll be able to cross-pollinate to the other pretty easily.
Very cool. And for more on Branders Magazine, Talking with Branders podcast, go to brandersmagazine.com. And for more on me, StephenBacanta.com. And we'll see you next time. Peace out.
2